So if you're a new dentist or you're in dental school, you're probably thinking about which career path is the best way to go. Should I open up my own practice? Should I work for a DSO? What are DSOs? What does corporate dentistry have to offer? Should I go work for a small private office? Should I commute to a rural area where there's no dentist for miles? Is this the best way to go to make the most money? So in this video, we're gonna cover all of that, and we're gonna find out which one makes the most sense for you. So first, there's DSOs, right? A lot of you guys heard the horror stories of dentists going to work for these large corporate dental service organizations, being burnt out, used, and all in all being stressed and just being seen as a number. While yes, that makes sense for most of them, especially the larger ones. So a lot of the large franchise models such as Aspen, Heartland, et cetera, you will be in a situation where you're just seen as a number. You're gonna be pushed to do more treatment, even though you may have a record month. But these are great environments to learn. You're pretty much given free reign and to just go ahead and do as much treatment as possible. And you're gonna learn a lot of things about the business of dentistry in these environments. So if you're someone that's up for that and you're not really scared of the idea of having to work hard and you're a hustler and you really wanna maximize the most amount of time, you can earn a decent salary coming right out of school, and you can learn a lot of things. Some of these DSOs are more surgically focused, some aren't, but you learn how to do extractions. You'll pretty much be able to focus on things that you see fit in your practice, and it's a good learning experience to understand how the DSO model works. Now, the cons of these large DSOs are you're just a number, right? So even if you're one of the top performers, they pretty much just know they're gonna get as much as they can from you in a short amount of time, and they hope that you buy into owning a practice and opening one of the franchise offices with them. So then you can just make them even more money while you feel like you're an owner. I'm not knocking. I did work in one of these DSOs, and it is an easy way to own multiple practices. And I think if you do go the DSO route, that's when it really makes sense, right? I don't want to be on this channel to kind of knock any of these, right? It's about what works for you. So if you're someone that likes the done for you kind of franchise model, it works, right? The dentist that I worked for was in Jersey. He owned 6 franchise offices, and because DSO was so large and they had such refined systems on where they find these practices, finding the talent, marketing, getting patients for him, he was able to make a lot of money, right, while he was working. But it's a lot of work, right, dealing with all of that headache. But it does take out some of the extra work that comes from doing it all yourself. That's something to think about if you are in that model. It's a great place to start. I started there, and I really learned a lot about the business of dentistry and learned the importance of treatment acceptance. So the second model is just being an associate at a smaller private practice. This can get a little tricky because usually you're gonna be micromanaged, right? Because you're directly attached to this guy or gal who owns the practice, and it's their baby, right? They put the money into it and they need to get money back. So they're gonna be watching what you're doing. Your earning potential is gonna be limited. They don't have as much capital or funds to provide you the patient flow that the large DSOs can, or the benefit packages like the 401k, the signing bonuses. Really, if they're not thriving, which most private practice dental owners aren't, they're gonna be keeping the big cases for themselves, and you're just gonna be pretty much doing fillings and all the lower level dentistry and not able to earn much. So I think the only way this model makes sense is when you have a personal relationship with the owner and they are successful. You're able to produce over 100,000 a month in gross production. And if that owner is eventually looking to phase out and give you the opportunity to essentially take over the practice. So these can be really great opportunities if you have a great doctor who's willing to mentor, willing to teach you, but they have to be successful. Otherwise, if they're not, you're basically just competition, and you're just there to make them more money and help pay the bills that they're barely able to pay. So that's the private ownership path. A third path that kind of ties into private practice is these cosmetic dentists that are so popular on social media. Either you work for a small boutique office that specializes in veneers, crowns, or you own your own practice and you're specializing in that as well. These are great opportunities, right? Who doesn't want to be Dr. Appa of dentistry and to have a social media presence and gain respect for yourself in the industry? This is great. But the problem with these cosmetic-focused practices is they're not closing these cases all the time, right? There's really a very, very small niche and percentage of dentists who are dominating the market. And it's really hard for new up-and-comers to get opportunities in the offices because they want you to have the skills to deliver, because when you're in these cosmetic practices, you're only as good as the last case you did. It only takes you to mess up one case for your name to go into the ground, and people just see you as having a bad reputation. So you have to be careful in these models. They're good opportunities, but I think there's no long-term growth unless you're able to, like I said, in the private practice, work directly under somebody who is established themselves in this super small niche. I mean, there's probably just a handful of dentists that you guys see on social media who are dominating the industry in the US, right? They may be in different markets, but when people want to go get their teeth and their smile made over, they're only thinking about a small, population of dentists, and they only want to go to these people, right? They're more likely to go to them than the small, dentist who doesn't have any social media presence. So pros and cons, but I think it only makes sense here if you're able to have a personal relationship with these well-established cosmetic dentists, and they're going to teach you the tricks and trades of what they're doing. But once again, that's kind of unrealistic, and that's a far-fetched situation. I've seen, some of my colleagues do it and then go on to open up their own high-end cosmetic offices, and they have massive success, and they even have done makeovers for celebrities. But this isn't an opportunity that I want you to think is possible for everyone, and in my honest opinion, I think it's getting a little saturated. So the fourth option is similar to kind of my current position. It's when you get into a corporate dental office, but it's a smaller mid-size dental service organization that is essentially buying up these smaller private practices, keeping them as is instead of having a franchise model where everything is the same. And they basically come with the capital to give you the 401k, to take care of the overhead and the payroll of all the employees. And you're able to just come in here and essentially, just like NBA draft pick comes into the NBA, you're able to come in and basically perform, right? And if you can perform in the top 5% of all of their providers, you will be able to have leverage to change your contract, to get opportunities to move up within the corporation. What I've been able to do is even be offered a clinical advisory board position and create initiatives for the whole 100 offices and really help have impact, not just on my patient's life, but also in the providers that work in our organization. So that's very powerful. And as far as developing your resume, that really opens you up to opportunities that are not just clinical, right? You can now be on the operating side of things. You know, especially when you understand how to get case acceptance and you understand how to motivate staff members, you understand the front desk, back desk. It's really powerful when you can start to understand the business of dentistry. Now, this makes the most sense, I think, for when you're just coming out. I think it's the best opportunity. However, I know they're not available in all different markets. So me personally, I'm in the Northeast, and the DSO I work for, they're expanding only 100 offices currently. So it's a great opportunity. They're looking to expand. They're even doing like tuition reimbursements where they're giving some docs like $100,000 bonuses if you're able to demonstrate that you have potential and you're willing to stay with the company for 1 year, 2 years. So I think this is currently the best option. And if you want to learn more about how to navigate this once you're in there and navigating your contracts, if you're just curious and you have a question about, I don't know what I want to do, I'm getting out of dental school, I'm seeing that there's this option, that option, should I do a GPR? Should I, just do a startup and open up my own practice? These are all things that, I've been in your shoes, and I can kind of help you guys navigate that. So if any of that interests you, just hit the link in my bio. You can join my free private community. I'll be breaking this down. If you want to, we can hop on the phone. I even provide one-on-one coaching. I've worked with a lot of doctors and really just showing them the ropes on how to become successful, because once you guys get out of dental school, you have to get a return on your investment. You put so much time and money, you have to get a return on your investment. And if you're not thinking like that and you're just getting by and you're just putting up with being in a bad situation, you're gonna look up and 10 years are gonna be past you and you're gonna be having to do this forever, right? You shouldn't be wanting to do this forever. You should be in this, working for 10, 15 years, making enough money where you can make investments into other vehicles while you're working in dentistry and be able to say, hey, I'm 50 years old, I worked hard and I can get out, okay? So once again, any of that interests you, just hit the link in my bio. I'll see you guys there. Thank you.